The Black Bag Left on a Doorstep by Catherine Louisa Pierkes. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Alan Winterroud. The Black Bag Left on a Doorstep by Catherine Louisa Pierkes. "It's a big thing," said Loveday Brooke, addressing Ebenezer Dyer, chief of the well-known detective agency in Lynch Court, Fleet Street. "Lady Cathrow has lost £30,000 worth of jewellery, if the newspaper accounts are to be trusted." They are fairly accurate this time. The robbery differs in a few respects from the usual run of country home robberies. The time chosen, of course, was the dinner hour, when the family and guests were at table, and the servants, not on duty, were amusing themselves in their own quarters. The fact of its being Christmas Eve would also of necessity add to the business and consequent distraction of the household. The entry to the house, however, in this case was not effected in the usual manner, by a ladder to the dressing-room window, but through the window of a room on the ground floor. A small room, with one window and two doors, one of which opens into the hall, and the other into a passage that leads by the back stairs to the bedroom floor. It is used, I believe, as a sort of hat and coat room by the gentlemen of the house. It was, I suppose, the weak point of the house. Quite so, a very weak point indeed. Craigen Court, the residence of Sir George and Lady Cathrow, is an oddly built old place, jutting out in all directions, and as this window looked out upon a blank wall, it was filled in with stained glass, kept fastened by a strong brass catch, and never opened, day or night, ventilation being obtained by means of a glass ventilator fitted in the upper panes. It seems absurd to think that this window, being only about 4 feet from the ground, should have had neither iron bars nor shutters added to it. Such, however, was the case. On the night of the robbery, someone within the house must have deliberately and of intention unfastened its only protection, the brass catch, and thus given the thieves easy entrance to the house. Your suspicions, I suppose, center upon the servants? Undoubtedly, and it is in the servants' hall that your services will be required. The thieves, whoever they were perfectly cognizant of the ways of the house. Lady Cathrow's jewellery was kept in a safe in her dressing room, and as the dressing room was over the dining room, Sir George was in the habit of saying that it was the safest room in the house. Note the pun, please. Sir George is rather proud of it. By his orders, the window of the dining room immediately under the dressing room window was always left unshuttered and without blind during dinner, and as a full stream of light thus fell through it onto the outside terrace, it would have been impossible for anyone to have placed a ladder there unseen. I see from the newspapers that it was Sir George's invariable custom to fill his house and give a large dinner on Christmas Eve. Yes, Sir George and Lady Cathrow are elderly people with no family and few relatives, and have consequently a large amount of time to spend on their friends. I suppose the key of the safe was frequently left in the possession of Lady Cathrow's maid? Yes, she is a young French girl, Stéphanie Delcroix by name. It was her duty to clear the dressing room directly after her mistress left it, put away any jewellery that might be lying about, lock the safe, and keep the key till her mistress came up to bed. On the night of the robbery, however, she admits that, instead of so doing, directly her mistress left the dressing room, she ran down to the housekeeper's room to see if any letters had come for her, and remained chatting with the other servants for some time, she could not say for how long. It was by the 7:30 post that her letters generally arrived from St. Omer, where her home is. Oh, then she was in the habit of thus running down to inquire for her letters, no doubt, and the thieves, who appear to be so thoroughly cognizant of the house, would also know this. Perhaps, though at the present moment I must say things look very black against the girl. Her manner, too, when questioned, is not calculated to remove suspicion. She goes from one fit of hysterics into another, contradicts herself nearly every time she opens her mouth, then lays it to the charge of her ignorance of our language, breaks into voluble French, becomes theatrical in action, and then goes off into hysterics once more. "All that is quite français, you know," said Loveday. "Do the authorities at Scotland Yard lay much stress on the safe being left unlocked that night?" "They do, and they are instituting a keen inquiry as to the possible lovers the girl may have. For this purpose they have sent Bates down to stay in the village and collect all the information he can outside the house. But they want someone within the walls to hobnob with the maids generally, and to find out if she has taken any of them into her confidence respecting her lovers. So they sent to me to know if I would send down for this purpose one of the shrewdest and most clear-headed of my female detectives. I, in my turn, Miss Brooke, have sent for you, and you may take it as a compliment if you like. So please now get out your notebook, and I'll give you sailing orders." Loveday Brooke, at this period of her career, was a little over 30 years of age, and could be best described in a series of negations. She was not tall, she was not short. She was not dark, she was not fair. She was neither handsome nor ugly. Her features were altogether nondescript. Her one noticeable trait was the habit she had, when absorbed in thought, of dropping her eyelids over her eyes till only a line of eyeball showed, and she appeared to be looking out at the world through a slit instead of through a window. Her dress was invariably black, and was almost Quaker-like in its neat primness. Some 5 or 6 years previously, by a jerk of fortune's wheel, Loveday had been thrown upon the world penniless and all but friendless. Marketable accomplishments she had found she had none, so she had forthwith defied convention, and had chosen for herself a career that had cut her off sharply from her former associates and her position in society. For 5 or 6 years she drudged away patiently in the lower walks of her profession. Then chance, or, to speak more precisely, an intricate criminal case, threw her in the way of the experienced head of the flourishing detective agency in Lynch Court. He quickly enough found out the stuff she was made of, and threw her in the way of better class work indeed that brought increase of pay and of reputation alike to him and to Loveday. Ebenezer Dyer was not, as a rule, given to enthusiasm, but he would at times wax eloquent over Miss Brooke's qualifications for the profession she had chosen. "Too much of a lady, do you say?" he would say to anyone who chanced to call in question those qualifications. "I don't care twopence halfpenny whether she is or is not a lady. I only know she is the most sensible and practical woman I ever met. In the first place, she has the faculty, so rare among women, of carrying out orders to the very letter. In the second place, she has a clear, shrewd brain, unhampered by any hard and fast theories. Thirdly, and most important of all, she has so much common sense that it amounts to genius. Positively to genius, sir." But although Loveday and her chief as a rule worked together upon an easy and friendly footing, there were occasions on which they were wont, so to speak, to snarl at each other. Such an occasion was at hand now. Loveday showed no disposition to take out her notebook and receive her sailing orders. "I want to know," she said, "if what I saw in one newspaper is true, that one of the thieves, before leaving, took the trouble to close the safe door and to write across it in chalk, 'To be let, unfurnished.'" "Perfectly true, but I do not see that stress needs to be laid on the fact. The scoundrels often do that sort of thing out of insolence or bravado. In that robbery at Reigate the other day, they went to a lady's davenport, took a sheet of her notepaper, and wrote their thanks on it for her kindness in not having had the lock of her safe repaired. Now, if you will get out your notebook—" "Don't be in such a hurry," said Loveday calmly. "I want to know if you have seen this." She leaned across the writing table at which they sat, one on either side, and handed to him a newspaper cutting which she took from her letter case.